AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. We are not live from the Raising Cane studio. Today we are at El Garaje, the garage, Gordon's podcast studio. Awesome spot here and couldn't be more fired up to be here. Our Tuesday shows are presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Alondra's on site with us. Muse and Paulie are back in studio. We got a ton to do. Gordon will be with us in hour number 3. Will Helmers, former Tiger pitcher, here in hour 2. Shea Dixon in about 15 minutes. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
We are going to get to Shea in about 15 minutes as Rivals has updated their recruiting rankings for this coming class, this cycle. So I want to get to that with Shea in just a smidge. Pretty significant news out of the NFL, as maybe not entirely surprising, but the Atlanta Falcons have announced they will be cutting Kirk Cousins. Again, this shouldn't seem like a gigantic surprise, but Cousins is 37 years old, 14 years in the NFL, and he's now a backup to Michael Penix. And he has a great desire to be a starter somewhere else, and Atlanta clearly has moved on from Kirk Cousins being their starter, even though Penix is coming off of injury. The Falcons did restructure Cousins' contract, so that guarantees $67.9 million for 2027. That's incredible, these dead numbers that keep increasing. But the restructure will save Atlanta about $35 million in cap space for 2026. So it makes sense financially for Atlanta in the short term. Obviously, they'll be able to spread that money out with some of these dead numbers over the course of the remainder of the contract. But all this to say, obviously, there's a competitive question with Cousins and with Atlanta and what that means with him no longer being there. And then what that means for Kirk Cousins. And all this to say, I think something I say very often whenever we're talking about free agents or targets, trade targets, anything, is if you're the Saints, if you're the general manager, if you're our dear friend Gumsmack and Mick in this respect, if you are not doing your due diligence on everybody, on every possible trade target, draft target, free agent target, then you're not doing your job. It's not to say you're going to land everybody. It's not to say it's going to make sense or that everyone's going to have interest in you, but you need to be doing your due diligence on everybody. And that would include Kirk Cousins in this instance. Now, a couple things. First of all, Kirk Cousins is 37 years old, 14-year NFL vet. So he's got a ton of experience. I mean, he's been a playoff quarterback, a decade as a starter in the NFL, and he still has value as a starter in the NFL, which might complicate things here. But when you just look at this most recent season, Michael Penix, before his injury, remember Penix tore his ACL, and Cousins ended up starting the remainder of the season. Michael Penix was 3-6 as the starter in 2025 in Atlanta. It's 3-6. Cousins went 5-3 after the injury, and it included a 4-game win streak to end the season. So Kirk Cousins clearly still has value. I'm not telling you Kirk Cousins is a guy that's going to throw for 4,800 yards and 42 touchdowns and be a guy that's going to lead you to the playoffs. I'm not saying you need to invest in Kirk Cousins as a starter. What I'm looking at is who's going to back up Tyler Shuck. And a year ago, we were having this conversation about which veteran quarterbacks would make sense to bring to New Orleans, where you had Shuck, you had Rattler, and we were still having this conversation because at this point a year ago, well, a little beyond this, after they drafted Tyler Shuck, we didn't know who was going to be the starter. And my argument has been consistently, I would still want a veteran backup. Now, the Saints' perspective has been, well, Kellen Moore was a quarterback, and Doug Nussmeier was a quarterback, and Scott Tolzien was a quarterback. So you have all these former NFL quarterbacks on staff, and that's fine. And I think there's a lot of legitimacy to the benefit that they would lend a young quarterback. I also watched Drew Brees for a decade and a half in New Orleans have great value on guys like Mark Brunell and Chase Daniel, McCown, because he wanted to be able to come to the sideline. I mean, look at any shot of Drew Brees during his career in New Orleans. Coming to the sideline and looking at initially the flip chart of the pictures and then the tablet, with his backup sitting right next to him was another set of eyes that he trusted. You give me a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's seen just about everything in this league, I would want that set of eyes sitting next to Kirk Cousins or sitting next to Tyler Shuck to help him through that process. So there's a great benefit there. Also, the role of a backup quarterback has got to be, if something happens to your starter, can he keep the train on the tracks until the starter returns? There's a reason starters are starters and backups are backups. So yes, there would absolutely come a point where if your starter was out for an extended period of time, for all intents and purposes, your season is over. The realistic possibility of a Nick Foles replacing Carson Wentz or Tom Brady replacing Drew Bledsoe, the reason we remember those contextually in NFL history is because they are an outlier. It's why we remember them, because they are uncommon. Cincinnati, this past year, without Joe Burrow, they were 1-8. You lose Joe Burrow, you're screwed. You lose Joe Burrow for 9 games, your season's over. But I go back to 2018 in New Orleans when Drew Brees banged his thumb off Aaron Donald's helmet and missed 5 weeks. Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0. He kept you on track until Brees came back. If Brees was out for the year, you're not doing anything. But Bridgewater kept the train on the track. So my question is, a couple. If you're looking at a backup quarterback option for 2026, would you rather Spencer Rattler or would you rather someone like Kirk Cousins? There's different ways to go about this. See, Rattler has the higher long-term ceiling, right? Kirk Cousins is 37. He's nearing the end of his career, whatever that's going to look like. Long-term, Rattler's a better option. However, do you feel like you can contend in 2025? Now, contending can be a different answer for different people. What does contending actually mean? Can you make the playoffs in 2026? Well, you're in a bad division. You have the second easiest strength of schedule based on the opponent's win-loss percentage in 2025, in the entire NFL, by the way. So you're in a very winnable division with a manageable schedule, and you have an ascending quarterback in a division where I don't know that that's the case. I mean, Baker Mayfield, there was a point this past year where he was the front runner for the MVP. Do we really think Bryce Young is awesome? By the way, Carolina won the division. They're right now presently in Vegas, picked to finish last in the NFC South. And then there's Atlanta with Michael Penix coming off a torn ACL. All that to say, I can make a really strong case for the Saints winning the division and getting back in the playoffs. So is there value in Kirk Cousins being a backup? I would say yes. Is there more value in Cousins being here as your backup over Rattler, whatever his long-term potential would be? And remember, if you do part ways with Spencer Rattler, you're trading him and getting an asset. What would it be? I don't know, probably a late day three pick if you got anything for him. But would you rather a better backup quarterback and getting an asset for Rattler or Rattler? My pick is go sign Kirk Cousins. Now, the giant question is, does Kirk Cousins still fancy himself as a starting quarterback in the NFL? And if so, what teams might be looking for a starter? Oddly, Minnesota, from whence he came, could be looking for backup for J.J. McCarthy or someone to compete with J.J. McCarthy. It's something they've said. The Jets are another team that seemingly is always looking for a quarterback, and they stink. So, those are kind of the options. Or could we see a situation where Cousins is willing to go to a team where he might be a backup, but could have a chance to contend and maybe win something of significance? Again, I don't know what Kirk Cousins is looking to do, but if I'm New Orleans, I'm at least kicking the tires. And one of the things that we always talk about, remember, Spotrac has that function on their website where you can look at a player's market value. The deal that they project for Kirk Cousins, looking at comparable players in the NFL, they project Kirk Cousins on a 1-year, $10.7 million deal. One year, $10 million for a backup that's been a decade-long starter in the NFL. And if something goes haywire with Tyler Shuck and he has to miss a few weeks, you have that guy there who could also be a great tutor for your young quarterback. Yeah, I'm completely on board with that. So I understand when we talk about Cousins, people are going to say, you like that, and play that clip, and we're going to talk about some of the playoff shortcomings with Cousins, and I get all of that, and the fact that he's 37, and yes, I'm not saying I'm interested in Kirk Cousins to come in and try to contend to be compete to be a starter. I'm saying I'd be interested in Kirk Cousins to be an experienced backup to help tutor Tyler Shuck, and to be a guy that if something were to happen to Shuck and he had to miss any length of time, you got a veteran player there who can go out and function like we saw him do with Atlanta at the end of the season when he went 5-3 after Penix's injury, and including a 4-game win streak. So there's a lot. And by the way, I think it would be affordable, and you can get an asset for him. You can convince yourself pretty quickly why signing Kirk Cousins would make a lot of sense for the New Orleans Saints. I'd certainly be on board with it. So we'll continue to follow that as it moves along. All right, it's After Further Review. Show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU, the official beer of the New Orleans Saints as well. Remember, they have the officially licensed LSU Baseball National Championship aluminum bottles right now over at Bud Light. So make sure you pick them up at your favorite retailer, local watering hole, restaurants. If you're out at the box, Tigers McNeese tonight out at Alec Box Stadium. If you're going to be out there watching the Tigers and the Cowboys, make sure you grab a few Bud Lights from the concession stand. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. We're here from the Garage, Gordon McKernan's podcast studio in Baton Rouge. If you're not watching, get to YouTube, the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel, and check it out because, man, this is an awesome spot. You'll love to keep an eye on it here as we broadcast live. So, quick break. We'll come back. Shea Dixon from On 3, the Bengal Tiger, will be with us. Rivals has updated their recruiting rankings, so we'll talk to Shady about that as we continue. We're glad you're hanging out with us here on this Tuesday edition of AFR, presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Hey, remember, I love telling you about what my experience has been over the years with HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And I encourage, whether you're man, woman, young, old, it's not about your biological age. It's more about how you feel. Because every single one of us, as we age, our bodies produce less of the hormones that contribute to how we feel. And that happens differently in every person. I told you, look, I spent 9 months living in a hospital, looking at my son in a hospital bed every day. And that aged me biologically. So it accelerated. So, I mean, I had the testosterone of a 70-year-old man at 34. And I got my levels checked, supplement, and I feel awesome, like I did when I was in my 20s. You can have that feeling as well. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness can help. Yourgoodwood.com. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Big shout out to our friends over at Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. New location on Piku is now open. Oh, real quick, going to get to Shea in a second. I want to remind you, hey, tonight, after I get done with the show here, we're at the Garage, Gordon's podcast studio today. After I'm done with the show, I'm heading straight over to Fred's in Tigerland, taking it all the way back to 2006 for your boy. We got the S&P Rare Whiskey Raffle. Shout out to my guy, KP over at S&P, Jason Nay at Fred's. An awesome thing that they do. Of course, it's their rare whiskey allocation. They sell raffle tickets, much like we do with Calandros. This is for S&P. And they have very generously, for the past several years, named St. Lillian Academy, special needs school in Baton Rouge, where my son Drew attends, as one of the beneficiaries, along with the Baton Rouge Ancient Athletes Society. So the ticket sales online cut off at 4 p.m. So you have 41 minutes, and then ticket sales are cut off. So it's on my Twitter, it's on my Facebook, on my Instagram story. It's also on S&P's social media. I think Fred shared it as well. I sent it on my text line yesterday. So get your link. Remember, all the proceeds from the ticket sales go to benefit St. Lillian Academy and Baton Rouge Ancient Athletes Society. So shout out to KP over at S&P and shout out to Jason Nay at Fred's as well. Looking forward to being there tonight. All right, Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, good enough to hang out with us, talk some Cruton as he does every single week. Shady, how are you, dude?
Making me rethink what I might be doing the rest of today. I throwing it back to Tigerland, this could result in Erica and or Emily pulling up on us with we're going streaking, old
Shea,
school vibe. I don't know how it could end.
Shea, it's wild. So if you haven't been to Fred's in a minute, all right, and we all had our Fred's time, right? I mean, Fred's is as old as I am, right? Fred's was established in 1982 and Mark opened it. And Jason Nay was my neighbor. When Eric and I got married, he lived like 3 houses down from us, from our first home. So like we've known these people forever, right? But they bought Reggie's, which was next door when that closed, and they turned that into what they call the Antler Room. And so they have parties and private events and stuff in there, and that's where this thing is now, where we did it last year, and it's awesome, man. Like, it feels like you walked into a graduated version of Fred's, which is really cool, man. So you should totally come by. I'll buy you some beers or whatever you want.
Wow, it's not a selfish pitch. I'm asking, what time do we start here?
6:30.
What time's it rolling? 6:30.
6:30. I'm rolling. My show here ends at 6. And like as soon as I end, boom, I got to get in the car and get over there because I'm supposed to start the live stream for the whiskey raffle at 6:30. Might be a few minutes late, but we'll see.
Gordon could probably chopper you down there.
Gordon, if not chopper, I think Gordon could probably pull together a police escort for me. I think that's definitely doable, if not a chopper. But I mean, yeah, we can make this happen very quickly. I have no doubt.
I'm delaying all my recruiting intel just because I'm mad I'm not at the garage right now.
Come hang out. Helmer's is over here. We got an electric guitar plugged up to the amp. We got a dartboard over here. This is such a cool... The Jeep that Helmer's had to drive for 20 hours to Omaha is over there. I mean, we got tons of good stuff. Come hang out, Shea.
Was that a title-winning Jeep?
Is it a what?
That was from this past summer. That was a title winner.
Oh, title winner. Yeah. Yes. That's the... Oh, you haven't seen the Jeep?
No.
Oh, bro. You guys... So we are wasting so much time. So Gordon... Helmer's, how old is that Jeep? It's a 92. All right, it's a Wrangler rag top, and they put this custom paint job on it. I could imagine that was probably the most uncomfortable ride you could ever fathom from Baton Rouge to Omaha, but Helmer's did it. Shout out to him. Looked good doing it.
Can you talk recruiting? What should we do
Love
now?
to do that. Let's do that. Okay. Rivals has updated their recruiting rankings, and as I understand it, 2 Louisianians, current 5 stars. Tell us about them, Shea.
Yeah, and how we do it, the Rivals industry rankings is going to bring in ESPN 24/7, so there's more 5 stars. And you get into the Elijah Haven, Ahmad Hudson, that whole group. But we roll ours out a little bit of it at a time, and I think the thought process is you get to 32, like first round of the NFL draft by the end, and if you just kind of inch 1 or 2 or 3 every update, you don't run into a situation where you're taking 5 stars away very often. So once you earn one, you're keeping it normally. And I think that's the case for both these guys, Easton Royal out of Brother Martin and Albert Simeon coming out of Lake Charles. And let's start with Easton because he's the number 1 wide receiver in the country. And obviously with the riches that LSU has benefited from in Louisiana at wide receiver, even out of the New Orleans area, more specifically, not a shock to see a kid be ranked a 5-star or even wind up the number 1 receiver in the country. But that's what Royal is. But he's been committed to Texas since November. And Matt, I'll give you the date, November 29th. So less than 24 hours before Kiffin was announced as LSU's coach, Texas popped him, and have had him committed since. But he's going to make visits, and this is one that I think we're living in the NIL world, even in the high school NIL world, where it's not legal in the Lone Star State, but it is in Louisiana, and he's a Louisiana prospect. So you deal with all that, you navigate those waters. I think that by December, the combination of what this LSU team will look like with Lane Kiffin's offense and recruitment that they'll continue to push on him. And we've seen how they closed with portal guys. We saw how they closed with 2 5-star D linemen in 3 days who were talking about delaying their decisions in December all the way to February. And Richard Anderson and Lamar Brown, both those guys signed. So I haven't seen them misstep yet, Matt. So I would think that in year one, a first full recruiting cycle for Lane Kiffin and this staff, that prioritizing a guy who is ranked and considered the best receiver out there 60 miles down the road at Brother Martin, no matter where he's committed, you are on him until the very end. And I feel good about LSU's chances.
And then what about Albert Simeon?
Yeah, he's one who's not committed, which makes he's, I think, the number 2 interior lineman. So Easton Royal's the number 5 overall prospect on Rivals, no matter what position. Albert Simeon's number 10. So these are 2 top 10 guys, no matter position. And when you're uncommitted, you get even more attention. So he has had everybody from Notre Dame to LSU to you name it. They're on him. And he's lined up a bunch of visits coming up here soon. I mean, Tennessee, Auburn, Miami, Florida, Ole Miss, Nebraska, you name it. But A&M is one we're really watching. I think if LSU would have to consider a team as kind of the main competition right now, it'd be Texas A&M. Yes, Nebraska's in it. He's really intrigued by Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman came all the way down to Lake Charles to see him in January when they had the open contact period. Lane Kiffin went over there and saw him when he was at a basketball practice, and they tweeted out a picture of them together. So when you send head coaches, they're usually for guys like this. And look, Louisiana native, but at the same time, he's getting to experience everything right now as an uncommitted prospect as LSU goes through a coaching change. So we'll have to see what his relationship with Eric Wolford, the new O-line coach, is like. And I don't think he's in such a rush to make a decision that you have to worry kind of about where you stand right now. You just want to be in that league group that locks in official visits, and LSU is easily in that group.
Shea Dixon's with us on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Shea, who are some of the other, you mentioned Ahmad Hudson, some of the other Louisiana prospects who we need to keep an eye on these rankings?
Yeah, you and I were talking about Ahmad Hudson back in the football season.
Yeah.
His dad played basketball here as an all-SEC player, and he's up at Ruston, just such a talented program, just churning out guys, even LSU right now with Andy this past cycle. Now his little brother is in this current class. He's got an offer, but Ahmad is the best player on that team. He, in my opinion, is the best tight end in the country. I also haven't watched all the tight ends in the country. I just know that he is 6'6", 230, and he came to LSU camp, and that, I will tell you, he put on a throw Jarvis, Odell, Jefferson, all those guys in there. He put on a top 10 performance. Nobody could guard him. And that's Trey Green. So, this is your heir apparent. And just like Trey he's got basketball offers. He, I think right now is a little bit further along in his football career than Trey was at this stage. So very, very highly coveted guy. And we've talked a ton about Elijah Haven, obviously at Dunham. He remains uncommitted. They have their quarterback in Peyton Houston. Those guys are the number 5 and 6 players in the state. So right there with each other. But a guy we haven't talked about a ton is Miguel Whitley. And stop me if you've heard this before. St. Aug has a high-level player that's getting offered by everybody. Right at about 6 foot, 185 receiver. And Rivals has him right now as the number 4 player in Louisiana. So right behind Royal, Simeon, Hudson, there's Whitley. And that makes him easily knocking on the door of top 50, regardless of position, and the number 11 receiver. So, I mean, you could be looking at a situation with strong seasons and off seasons coming up that Louisiana offers up 2 of the top 10 receivers in the country with Easton Royal and Miguel Whitley. And Whitley's a guy who the Ole Miss staff that is now at LSU was already recruiting to Ole Miss. So I feel good about where things stand there as LSU recruits that New Orleans area into the 2027 cycle. He's setting up some visits. He's not like Simeon, where he's going to be all over, the country, seeing everybody, but he'll hone in on a few teams. But it's always tough. It's going to be tough for anyone to pry away a St. Aug kid who LSU wants and that's got an offer and has always been high on LSU.
There's a couple more prospects I want to get to. Shea Dixon's with us here on 3, the Bengal Tiger. It's a Tuesday edition of AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Cornerback and a defensive end. Let's first talk about Joshua Dobson, 5-star corner, who visited LSU not long ago. Shea, what can you tell us is the latest there with Dobson?
Corey Raymond is so good at this. A year ago, I remember these guys emerging, and all of these guys we're talking about will be seniors in the fall, right? And then they'll sign in December, and then they'll be on campus this time next year. Well, a year ago, they were coming off sophomore seasons, and both of them were kind of playing for the first time. The 2 guys I'm going to talk about. And he had circled John Meredith and Josh Dobson as the 2 guys he liked the most. And I don't even know if they were ranked at the time, Matt. And now you look up, well, they're the only 2 cornerbacks who are ranked as 5 stars out of these 12 guys who got 5-star rankings on Rivals. So I think one of the founders, him and Ron Cooper, right, of DBU, has an eye for talent. And John Meredith is kid over in Fort Worth, and just seems like he's going to stay in state. And I think Raymond saw that early on and pivoted. And look, Josh Dobson is in North Carolina, but he's made no secret of it that I've got offers from every school in the country, and I am very intrigued at playing at LSU, playing for Corey Raymond. And let's not pretend that signing the number 1 corner in DJ Pickett and having him play right away and how they did it, right? Like, look at the snap count. Him and PJ Woodland were about dead even, and they just brought him along each game. And by season's end, Pickett was playing the most football he had all season, and you could tell it wasn't overwhelming for him. And now he's going to be a multi-year starter and probably another first-round draft pick for LSU at corner, and that's what they're selling Dobson on. So he'll be back next month. He'll watch practice, and then he'll come back for an official visit. And he's already made visits. He's already talked to Kiffin and the new staff a ton. But I think this is where you start to look at recruiting-wise, at least, keeping that staff in place on defense is key, right? Because we're seeing a lot of it on offense where they're picking up on guys they were recruiting at Ole Miss if they aren't Louisiana guys. The defense is just continuing to recruit the guys they've been recruiting. And Raymond and Dobson have had a relationship for well over a year now. So if there is a corner to watch outside the state, when you swing for the fences, you want another DJ Pickett, that's Joshua Dobson.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. One more, it's Jaden Bryan, who's an LSU commit right now, but kind of knocking on the door being a 5-star, huh?
Yeah, look, we have 32 at the end of it, and we're only at 12 5-stars right now. He's number 14 overall, so right there, and if he stays there, he will be a 5-star, which I presume he will be number 2 edge rusher in the country. And he committed South Carolina because they made that hire of Sterling Lucas, right? I mean, you make a big splash like that, then all of a sudden you've got a guy like Bryant suddenly even more interested. He got on board. And I think that the big storyline here is something that doesn't happen often, certainly not for a team that I can't even count the years anymore of having to turn over a new D-line coach every year. At least now Kevin Peoples has been here a couple of years. But Richard Anderson, Lamar Brown, both Louisiana kids, both 5-stars, number 1 and 2 D-linemen in America. They signed in December. And if this holds, Matt, then next December, 12 months later, you'll sign another 5-star D-lineman who's ranked either number 1 or 2. So those are the type of guys that are few and far between, right? Like when you go to the portal and you go D-line hunting, there was 1 or 2 guys out there that were considered like the elite of the elite. So if you can get these guys in high school and develop them when they already have that level of talent, you're sitting in a pretty good spot. So not too bad of a start to have an Angels quarterback on board, and then a guy at D-line who's knocking on the door of being a 5-star.
Shea Dixon, get him on Twitter at Shea Dixon, on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Of course, Rivals on the recruiting side. I'll see you at 6:30 at Fred's.
I'll be about 6:35. I don't want to come too early.
Fashionably late. Thank you, Shea.
Later, Matt.
All right, man. It's After Further Review. We're here at the Garage, Gordon's podcast studio. Gordon will be with us in hour 3. Looking forward to that conversation as always. Talk a ton of NIL. We're powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. And always love telling you about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Hey, listen, if it's time to pop the question, maybe you have a birthday coming up, an anniversary coming up, a graduation, any type of special occasion that you would like to commemorate with a timeless piece of jewelry or just everyday elegance, Lee Michaels can help. lmfj.com. That's the website for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. But they got 9 locations. A couple of them in Baton Rouge. It's Corporate Boulevard in Bocage, also in the Mall of Louisiana. Lafayette, New Orleans, Shreveport, online at lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. We'll knock out a quick break. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. When we come back, we'll go around the SEC. A ton I want to get to. There was also an interesting piece over at, I believe it was on 3 who did it, but they talked anonymously to 14 Power 4 general managers about the transfer portal class that was just signed, and some did have quite a bit to say about LSU, so we're going to delve into that about 25 minutes from right now. Quick break. We'll continue to go around the SEC here on AFR.
After Further Review.
We're brought to you by Duplessis Builders, duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. Man, if you are putting your head on your pillow at night and dreaming about what it's going to be like when the weather turns nice, sun is shining, and those long summer days from Louisiana are just baking down on you. And instead of just being outside sweating or spending the whole summer inside, you can go cannonball or just casually wade into your own beautiful custom pool. Time to make that phone call is right now. Duplessis Builders is who you want to call. DuplessisBuilders.net. DuplessisBuilders.net. Get all the info right there. You can always pop in and see their showroom. I highly recommend that. They're on Airline Highway in Gonzales. If you're going south on Airline, they're on the right. They're at the corner of Airline and Duplessis Lane, right next to the new Rouses. It's DuplessisBuilders.net. They can build any type of beautiful custom pool that you want. Of course, they have other designs already ready, starting at about $48K. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Plowing these fields in the hot summer sun, over by the gate, Lordy, here's...
I went a little long with Shea there, mostly because we were talking about Fred's. Glory days, you know what I mean? We will be over at Fred's in Tigerland in the Antler Room at 6:30. So as soon as AFR ends, I'm jetting over to Fred's. We're going to fire up a live stream, do the S&P Rare Whiskey Raffle. Not too late. You have 21 minutes. 4 o'clock Central. They're cutting off ticket sales. Again, the link. Muse, would you mind please grabbing that link and dropping it in the YouTube chat? I'd appreciate it very much. Look, if you know how these Rare Whiskey Raffles work, pretty easy. You buy tickets. The tickets go to benefit a great cause. In this case, it's St. Lillian Academy, which is my son's school. It's a great special needs school in Baton Rouge. Does amazing work for families like ours. I sing their praises all the time. They've given us a different outlook on what is possible for our son, and I know that's the same story for so many families like ours. And I'm very grateful to my guy KP over at S&P and Jason A at Fred's for including St. Lillian in this and for hosting an awesome event, allowing us to raise money and some awareness. But you can get tickets, and look, if your name's drawn, you have an opportunity to purchase a rare bottle of whiskey at fair retail value. So that's awesome. So, and if you want to come hang out at Fred's. We'll be there at 6:30 tonight. All right, it is After Further Review. Oh, okay. So let me give you an update. We're going to go around the SEC in just a second, but yesterday, LSU sophomore pitcher William Schmidt was here, had a great convo with the former Cali High Bear. And Schmitty told us, I asked, what's been different for him? And I really meant like on the mound. You're progressing year one to year two. But he did mention that he's gained 20 pounds from his freshman season to now. And I asked him how he did. I said, Canes. And he said, no, Smoothie King. Talked about the medium Hulk with like the muscle builder and protein and all that stuff. Anyway, I very definitively and demonstrably said on air that we got to get this guy an NIL deal. If I can't do that, I should just quit my job. Lo and behold, not surprising in any way whatsoever, actually, the folks over at Smoothie King did, in fact, reach out, and we were able to get Schmitty a deal done. Paul, if you could pull the photo up. I spoke to Sean today. Also, Roger. So Sean, Roger, and I met with Schmitty over at the Smoothie King on Perkins and Acadian today, and they got him hooked up to start. Also spoke earlier today with Tina with Smoothie King Marketing, regionally, who is going to help get a bigger scale and scope deal done and all that stuff. Anyway, very excited about it, but shout out to Roger, to Sean, the folks over at Smoothie King who acted quickly to get this deal done. This is how NIL should be done, where it makes sense, where you have student athletes who could draw some attention, a brand they want to work with, associate with, good people. This is true NIL and how it should be done. So shout out to the good people over at Smoothie King for making this work, and hat tip to William Schmidt. It was a great guest yesterday. We had a fun time chatting, and hopefully a great season this year for Schmidt, and next year in his junior year, then off to make all of his big league dreams come true with maybe a couple of more CWS titles before he gets out of here. All right, it is After Further Review. Tuesday shows are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Right now, we do it every day about this time, but Muse will do it today because we're on remote. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the South Carolina Gamecocks.
All right, Shane Beamer has updated the status of offensive tackle Jacarius Peak. Of course, he was sustained a knee injury in a team-organized 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Beamer said on Tuesday, Peak will miss spring practice. He will not be fully cleared for the summer, but they fully anticipate him being ready to roll in September. Rolls around. He was the 8th best transfer addition, according to Rivals, and Beamer says he's the first player ever to get injured in this team-organized 3-on-3 basketball tournament.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Arkansas has made a hire at defensive line coach. They will hire a Tulane's defensive line coach, Landius Wilkerson. Matt Zennett's first to report that. Spent the last 2 seasons at Tulane. Comes to Arkansas after Marion Hobby abruptly left for the NFL. This now puts Arkansas back up to 12 assistants.
The Florida Gators.
Florida has landed a commitment from 2027 tight end Jackson Bollinger, 6'4", 225-pounder out of Ohio. Chose the Gators over Texas A&M, Missouri, Wisconsin, Stanford, and others. Second commitment for Florida in the 2027 class.
The Missouri Tigers.
Missouri has seen a change to their football schedule for 2026. It's their opener against Arkansas Pine Bluff. That will now kick off on Thursday. It was originally scheduled, obviously, for the weekend, but it'll now be Thursday, September 3rd at Faurot Field. Fifth consecutive Thursday opener for Missouri under Eli Drinkwitz. They've won the previous 4.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
And lastly, Kentucky basketball coach Mark Pope. He got fined by the SEC for some post-game comments, $25,000. Followed Auburn's 75-74 win against the Wildcats. It was after he stepped away from the podium, he spoke just in a moment of candor to Kentucky's athletic director saying, they better not fine me because of, quote, I did not say a word about how they cheated us. Well, they fined him anyway, $25,000. That's around the SEC.
We're presented by Parrish Construction and Roofing, parrishbuilt.com, parrishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know, Parrish Construction and Roofing. That's me and Terrio and Tilly and Joe and Morris and Goldberg, our whole crew over there at Parrish Construction and Roofing, parrishbuilt.com, parrishbuilt.com. Hey, listen, we are giving away $25,000 cash. It's not a bit. It's a real thing that's happening. Someone is going to win $25,000 cash. Might as well be you. All you have to do is sign up for a free, no-obligation roofing inspection. I'll say that again. Free, no-obligation roofing inspection. And you're entered to win. I mean, get on your roof, you'll get a free inspection, a full, detailed, comprehensive inspection. So if a storm, even if you got no damage, if a storm does come, now you can cross-reference that inspection for your insurance company if you do have to file a claim somewhere down the line. And if you need anything, a small repair or full roof replacement, we'd love to help you out. Parrishbuilt.com, parrishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Parrish Construction Roofing, parrishbuilt.com. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Tuesday shows powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Newest office open there on Piku, the new exit. I was fired up. I got to pass it every single day. I pass it every single day going to and from work. And It's fun to watch the progress every day as that building was going up. But they are now open, and we're excited to tell you more about it. All right, let me knock out a quick break. The LSU basketball team has certainly not had a great season. It's been really bad, as a matter of fact. However, despite this really bad season, Tigers got a really fascinating commitment on Monday night that I want to talk about. We'll do it when we come back to wrap up hour number 1 here on AFR from the Garage.
After further review.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. They are complete employer solutions at Glow Resources. If you're trying to hire for your business, Glow Resources can help. I want you to think of this just conceptually. Like, how many people do you hire a year? Like, get that number in your head, whatever that is. If you're the business owner, the operations manager, HR, whatever, you're the one who does the hiring. How many people do you hire in a year? Whatever that number is. And then how many interviews do you conduct in a year to hire those folks? Well, at Glow Resources, they conduct roughly 15,000 interviews over the course of a year. They know the questions to ask, to check the right boxes, to make sure they find the right person for your job the first time. These are permanent solutions. It's Glow Resources. GLO. The glowresources.com, glowresources.com. Complete employer solutions.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Coming up, hour number 1. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. Will Helmers, former Tiger pitcher, join us here. Well, he's sitting right over there, but he's going to join us on the show in about 25 minutes or so. Gordon McKernan will be with us here at the Garage. We're at Gordon's studio, man. I've mentioned this place before if you're not familiar, but the Garage is right off of College Drive. If you're at Gordon's main office where you see the big flags and the inflatables, and you look directly across the interstate, you'll see the other building with the rotating G logo. That's where we are. It's another one of Gordon's offices, and what is quite literally the garage of that office is they converted into this beautiful podcast space, and Gordon rents it for free. I shouldn't even say rent, loans it for free to anybody that wants to do podcasts. You just schedule time, and they'll produce it. You can use this beautiful space. So it's another way Gordon gives back to the community. So Gordon will be with us here in hour 3. Looking forward to talking some NIL and all that stuff with Gordon like we always do. LSU basketball landed a commitment on Monday night. Australian guard Owen Foxwell has committed to the Tigers. Jonathan Givony from Draft Express broke the news. This one is fascinating, not terribly surprising because David Patrick on LSU staff has coached in Australia for a long time and has great ties to Australia. It's kind of how Ben Simmons ended up in Baton Rouge. Max McKinnon, who transferred to LSU from Portland, is also Australian. So there's a pipeline there that's very natural, makes a lot of sense. Remember when David Patrick was at St. Mary's? That's how Patty Mills got there and a lot of the Australian ties. I think most of us know that at this point. Owen Foxwell is fascinating, though, not just because he's Australian, because he's 22 years old, and he's been playing the last 4 years in the NBL. So he's been playing professional basketball in Australia for the last 4 years, and he's 22 years old. I know people are going to make the Charles Bediako jokes, and I'm, by the way, we've talked about Bediako. As extreme as I am in being pro-student athlete in the NIL portal era, even I think the Bediako thing is ridiculous because he played college, left, went pro, and then came back. Like, that should not anyway be allowed. A lot of the international players, when we've seen this happen, is they've played professional basketball internationally and then come to the college game. That is not altogether uncommon. We see that actually in other sports as well, where like you'll have guys sign a baseball contract straight out of high school, go play pro baseball, and then come back and play football. Josh Booty did that. Zach von Rosenberg did that. Like Matt Mauck did that. That's not uncommon. But the fascinating thing about this is you're talking about a 6'2 guard who, by the way, is averaging 20 points per game in a pro league in Australia, who, by the time, if he comes to LSU and plays 4 seasons, he'll be 26 years old by the time his college career ends, which is just it's fundamentally absurd. Like at this point, this is a guy that should be graduating college, not starting college. But that's the wackiness of college athletics and the way that it stands right now without guardrails. But I actually don't mind this. I mean, it's not, again, that dissimilar from a guy like we talked about, like with Matt Mock or Zach Von Rosenberg, guys who are older, Josh Booty, who started their college career at an older age, which happened. I mean, Chris Winkie was a Heisman winner at 25, 26 years old. So we've seen it before. It's more common now than it was in years past. But this is also the kind of thing where I look and say, I wonder how much of this recruiting class holds depending on what happens with Matt McMahon, which I know this isn't going to sit well with a lot of you, but I'm telling you, every conversation I have with anybody associated at LSU, I just don't think that it's a no-doubter that they're going to move on from Matt McMahon. I don't know that there's a great appetite to put even more, for lack of a better phrase, quote-unquote, dead money on the ledger to pay coaches not to work. And it would cost more than $10 million to fire Matt McMahon and his staff. I'm not sure that's going to happen. So continue to watch it as it plays out. Okay, hour number 2 coming up right after SportsCenter.
AFR.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows door siding. Oh, yeah, they do shutters too. And now indoor blinds. It's Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Check them out if you want to check out their wide menu of services that they offer. The indoor shades are gorgeous if you haven't seen them. I mean, they're the roll-down shades. They give you great blackout lighting. If you need that at night, it'll certainly help climate control your spaces as well during the hot summer months. Keep that sun out from beating on the inside of your home, whatever room it may be. Keep your home more climate controlled, more comfortable, more efficient. It's Relief Windows. Check them out online. To say it often, Relief Windows. If you want to go get quotes to replace windows, okay, like you can do that. Just understand that if you're just looking for the cheapest option, that will never be Relief Windows. If you want the best service, the best products, the best people, there's one choice, ReliefWindows.com.